News Storm Team.
Welcome back to KX News at noon, and we're taking a look across sunny North Dakota this early afternoon with temperatures sitting there in the low 80s and southerly winds across the board. Look at that, southerly winds at all of our 4 major cities. Really quickly, let's take a look at your fire weather forecast.
Here's your weekend fire forecast, sponsored by ServPro.
And I guess, as we would probably expect, given the amount of wet conditions that we've seen across the state the last couple of weeks or so, not looking at too much in the way of fire danger. The fuels that would lead to wildfire triggers aren't looking too dry right now. So as always, be careful, but fortunately it doesn't look like anything too bad. So we'll take a look from the skies across our state, only seeing a little bit in the way of some shower activity down to the south of Dickinson, passed through Bowman, maybe had a rumble of thunder a bit earlier, but otherwise it's generally clear skies across the board, and that's going to allow temperatures to warm on up into those low 90s. And with those southerly winds, as we saw on those KX cams, that's going to make things plenty humid. I'll zoom us on out a little bit to get an idea of what the overall pattern's looking like. We see this high pressure off here to our east, and as I had mentioned yesterday, that has clockwise flow around it, and that's allowing a lot of humid air to kind of get funneled up towards North Dakota. This low pressure is certainly helping too. It kind of helps to suck some of that humidity up in our direction. And there's this boundary that kind of runs along the North Dakota-Montana border, and this is going to be sort of where we're seeing a convergence zone of both that humid air mass and a drier air mass coming off of the Rockies. And it is in this area where we are going to expect to look for some thunderstorm development as we get towards the evening hours, maybe 6 to 8 p.m. or so, could be a couple hours earlier even. But this is going to be where we're going to be watching as we push later into the afternoon and early evening for thunderstorm development. I'll have some more details on that coming up here in a moment. Temperature-wise right now, though, it is getting toasty out there. We're already in the mid-80s at some locations, Bismarck at 84, with a few upper 70s hanging on, but that should change fairly soon, and we'll be getting up into those lower 90s as we push through the afternoon. And the dew points, which is a measure of moisture in the air, are well up there. We're in the mid 60s, basically across the whole area, even a 70 out there at Beach. That means it's feeling real humid, and with the combination of heat and humidity, those heat indexes are going to be coming on up there. So I'd highly recommend taking extra drinks of water and taking breaks in the shade if you're going to be doing anything strenuous outside this afternoon. So as we push through the next 12 hours or so, we will be warming up to probably the lower 90s across a lot of the state, with those precipitation chances starting to come on up and probably peaking there right around sunset, 9 or 10 p.m. Precision Cast will show us that here in a little bit before we cool off, and it will still probably be hanging out in the lower 70s as we get into your late evening to around midnight or so. So highs today, as I mentioned, we're going to be well into the 90s, maybe even some mid-90s out towards the Montana border, where the air mass will be a little bit drier, but just hot across the board. Very much late July weather, that is for sure. So now on to Precision Cast, which will kind of paint a picture of how things might play out. Starting in a couple hours from now, here, Friday at 3 p.m., should be still looking at clear skies, maybe a few sprinkles here and there, but nothing too much expected. But as we get towards the 5 to 7 o'clock hour, that's when we're going to be watching for that thunderstorm development out along that boundary I had painted out on the satellite picture. It'll be out towards Dickinson, where these thunderstorms, if they get going, will get going. The thing is, the atmosphere is going to be very unstable, but there's not going to be much of what we call what's called wind shear, which is what helps storms become organized and maintain themselves for a very long period of time. So as these storms move off to the east towards the US 83 corridor by about Friday at 10 p.m., the lack of wind shear, which is one of the major ingredients, might make these storms somewhat short-lived. We will keep a close eye on it, and these storms could still produce severe hail, but the thing is, they might not be too long-lived. So we will be watching that very closely. They'll push off to the east of our area as we push into early Saturday morning. So we have that level 2 out of 5 slight risk for severe weather across the area. And now we'll take a look at Wilson's next 5 days, and we have temperatures expected to be in the lower 90s as we push into the weekend, then cooling off quite a bit as we push into early next week, back in those mid 70s. And Dickinson, similar story, thunderstorm chances today and Saturday night as well, and then things should taper off precipitation wise, and will cool off quite a bit as we push into early next week. Now on to Minot's next 7 days. We will be a bit warm for Saturday, but shouldn't be too bad for the State Fair. Those storm chances will be a lot later in the day Saturday night, and then cooling off into early next week. Similar deal for Bismarck. We will be on that sunny and 75 watch as we get into the middle of next work week. Chance?
Michael, thank you. All right, coming up next for us.